Welcome, everyone. I'm now calling this meeting to order. Please stand with us. We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Gallagher. Please remain standing after that for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Alderman Brooks, will you lead us in the pledge? Sir.
Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight, Lord. We thank you that we're born in a country that's the most blessed country that there's ever been, Lord. Lord, we thank you for so many things that you've done, especially during this time of year, Lord. We just want to thank you for the Lord Jesus Christ who died on the cross for each and every one of us, Lord. And we pray that you would be with us and our families and keep us safe during this time of year. In your name we pray.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda this evening is the approval of minutes for the November 3rd, 2020 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of November 3rd, 2020 with any deletions, with any additions, deletions, or corrections.
Got a motion, Alderman Brooks, second Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for a personal property tax exemption from Conair Corporation. Mr. Nick Manley.
This is the personal property tax exemption for Conair. It's extension for four-year personal property tax exemption. It's been approved by the Sutter County Board of Supervisors, and the Economic Council recommends it. So tonight, authorization for the four-year tax exemption for personal property for Conair Corporation.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is approval of utility leak adjustment form.
It is, at the last meeting, you recall, we talked about the leak adjustment policy, and this new form, we're going to include in the minutes, and while we're also in the process of looking at the ordinances for the utility department, but in the meantime, we wanted to have this form in our minutes to reflect the policy of one adjustment per year, and that's also, will note that policy within the body of the form. So tonight, authorization to approve the new leak adjustment request form and have it reflected in our minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the utility leak adjustment form as presented. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is approval for bid for soccer equipment. The specifics are the miscellaneous equipment that will go to the fields for us to play soccer, such as soccer goals and benches for the players.
And to use central bidding as part of the bids. So, use central bidding allowed for the bid auction procedure.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve bids for soccer equipment as presented on this day. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for Information Technology and Emergency Communications Department surplus property.
This is surplus that property in accordance with Mississippi Code 172525.
We have a motion by Alderman Hoots, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the city declaration for holidays.
Yeah, this will be the declaration for December 24th and the Friday after Thanksgiving. I'm not sure what the date for the Friday after Thanksgiving is. 27th, thank you. Friday the 27th.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve November 27th and December 25th as 24th, sorry, as holidays.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Next on the agenda is our planning agenda. Ms. Whitney Cook.
Yes, sir. Our first application is to rezone 0.44 acres of property. It's currently zoned R9. The request is to go to C4. If you can look on the screen where the red highlighted area is, that's the overall piece of property. We did recently subdivide this property into 2 lots. The portion you see in yellow is currently R9. We're requesting to add that into the existing C4, which is just to the south of that. This does have linear frontage on Goodman Road. It is compliant with the comprehensive plan in terms of the depth. It does line up with the C4 that's on the east side of it, so we recommended approval to the Planning Commission, and I believe we need to do a hearing, a zoning hearing, but we are recommending approval based on those.
We can do the hearing first. Our motion to open a public hearing for item 1. Alderman Gallagher makes a motion.
Second.
Alderman Wheeler seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The public hearing is now open for item 1. So if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak, please come forward and address the board. Tell us your name, please.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman, my name is Kirk Green. I am a partner in Glide Express Car Washes. We're the company that is asking for the rezoning and conditional use on Goodman Road. We looked at a lot of sites in this area and everything. We really like this site. Y'all have a great town here. We're excited to be here in this town. That particular site works well for us. We got great buffer in the back for the neighbors and everything like that. And I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have. Be happy to do that. Any questions?
So you're not planning on building anything along the backside?
No, sir, that's going to stay
We're going to keep
R9.
that residential,
Yeah.
so we can keep that buffer on there.
And that actually joins 13 acres that go north and east. And we're hoping one of these days, if he does something there, that he may buy that or not. If not, we're just going to just keep it. So it'll always be a buffer unless somebody joins in with the other property there. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you.
Thank you for your interest in Southaven. Thanks for coming forward.
We're
Appreciate it.
looking forward to it. We really are.
Where'd you say you're from?
I'm from Texarkana.
Where?
Texarkana.
Okay.
Yeah, go all the way here today. Just for this.
All right.
That's important.
Thank you for all your one word. Thank you.
I know.
All right, you talk up, we know.
So is there anyone else who would like to speak in the audience? Anyone else who would like to speak during the public hearing? Okay, we don't see anyone or hear from anyone, so is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. We got a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The public hearing is now closed. And now do we want to vote? Are we ready to vote on item 1?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve item number 1, the planning agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Wheeler to approve item 1. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Hughes.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And application number 2, I think you just alluded to the fact that it was a conditional use permit for a car wash in this location. What we look at for the conditional use for this is character of the neighborhood and close proximity to other similar establishments. It was determined that obviously it's surrounded by heavy commercial. It is buffered appropriately, and it is not in close proximity to another car wash. I think the closest one was on Ward Drive over by Lowe's. After that, you have to go quite a bit away to the east side of Goodman Road. So we felt like it wasn't a saturation of the market in this. Therefore, we did recommend approval of the conditional use permit, 1 year with a 4-year extension.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve item 2.
We have a motion from Alderman Brooks and a second from Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion on item 2? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries.
I do have one more thing. We got notice from the Chancery Clerk's office. We did a scrivener's error, I believe, 2 meetings ago for the change in a street name in a section township and range error on an existing plat for Central Park, section P. Chancery Clerk informed us that our minutes weren't detailed enough with the plat book and page and identification of the corrections, so we have to go back through it. So what I need now is, hopefully you'll approve a Central Park section P, which is in book 132, page 39. We're requesting a street name change from Emmeline Drive to Park Valley. And also there is an error on the existing section township and range on the plat. Currently the section shows as 20, and we need to correct it to section 29.
I'll make that motion. Second.
We have a motion from Alderman Wheeler, second from Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is our mayor's report. I got several things. I'll try to move fairly quickly through this. First of all, we yesterday received information for our bids for the Rasco-Tullahoma traffic signal. Y'all know that we've talked about this many times before. When Rasco Road was extended all the way through to connect the east and west ends of Rasco. Now it is a road that goes all the way from Highway 51 to Getwell. When that happened, it increased the traffic tremendously on Rasco. And so in a very quick manner, it created a need for a traffic signal at Rasco and Tullahoma. It's a very dangerous intersection. We need to get that done as soon as possible. So we did get the bids on that. That wasn't on the mail out Friday because we just got it yesterday, but I emailed that out. But basically, the lowest bid and the recommendation for bid award is to DeSoto County Electric, and that amount is $190,163. So I'm asking the board to award this bid tonight. So,
Second.
we got a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, it's a very dangerous intersection, and it's loud, and it's back on 40.
Yeah.
It's back on here, so
Changes in the curve.
I'm always a little gun shy when I cross.
Yeah, gotta be careful. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Okay, the next thing is with our annual financial audit, we've used Fortenberry and Ballard each year, and so it's time to hire them again. We've been very pleased with their service in providing our audit, so I'm asking the board again for a motion to hire Fortenberry and Ballard to complete our financial audit for the next year.
So moved. Second.
We got a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks.
Yes.
Alderman Kelly.
Yes.
Alderman Hoots.
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher.
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler.
Yes.
Alderman Flores.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion carries. Okay, the next thing we need to do is, I mentioned in previous meetings that the Mississippi Municipal League conference for the winter session in January is being done differently this year because of COVID-19. They canceled the summer conference, but this winter conference is going to be held, but it's going to be held with an option to either go virtual or cancel, right? So they do still have some events. Obviously, it would be much different, with some people going virtual. I think someone else expressed this during the last discussion, that one of the great benefits of the conference is getting there and, building relationships, with other elected officials and get a chance to, see our legislators and things like that. So if we're not able to go in person, obviously that will change. So we've got to make a decision to let them know, kind of what we're going to do. So I want to bring that back up and just hear everybody's thoughts on that, and I'll share what I think as well.
Well, if we can't go, I think I brought it up last time, we should have a legislative board meeting. We can invite them up here and talk to us, explain what they do for us. We can certainly open the floor for questions for them as well.
It's a great idea. We can, I will reach out and try to set that up for the next couple of meetings.
We'd love to have them.
Thank you.
I don't see the advantage to it.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, that's just what.
I don't plan on doing it.
Okay. Alderman. Okay.
I agree.
I waste these funds in a hotel, we can't actually meet them down here. To me, that's the biggest benefit of going, so.
Yeah.
Nothing against the classes, all that's great, but we can actually meet with legislators and discuss agendas and whatnot, just kind of meets the purpose.
Gotcha.
Again, let's invite them up here. That'd be great.
If you need a motion, make a motion, we just pass it.
Okay.
Well,
Let me ask-
when we made a motion, you don't have to, just have to go. It's just one of those,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not we don't have to take action, but Alderman Kelly's on the line. Alderman Kelly, do you have any thoughts about it? Okay, thank you, sir. And I think that's a good decision. So we don't need board action, but Christie, will you reach out and let them know that the City of Southaven, we're not going to attend this year? Correct. We just don't see the value of going virtual, not being able to be there and, like you said, be in person, you hear the instructors in person, build the relationships, have the discussions with other officials and legislators. So we don't feel like it's a value for the city to do that. All right, well, so we'll take care of that and let them know. Okay, then just a couple of updates for everybody. Y'all know that we did the employee survey for the second time, and we closed that survey, left it open for 3 weeks, I think, and we got the results back on that. We'll be sending out that data to all of you so you can look through it. I've not had a chance yet to read all the comments, but it's proven to be a good thing for us, and I give credit to Alderman Wheeler last year for the idea. We appreciate that. It was a good idea. We did the survey in 19, got some good comments back from all of our employees, and we did the same thing this year. Also got some good feedback, and I am going to, as we told everybody, this is an anonymous survey. We don't know, where the comments came from, but they're all together, and it's kind of lengthy, so I haven't had time to read through all the comments, but I'm going to, and I will also forward that to all the board members as well. But I just want to share a couple of highlights with you that Chris Wilson tabulated for us regarding the survey. We had 206 people return a survey, so that's pretty good sample. About the same thing that we had in 19. Well, actually, we had 208, 19, 206, and 20. And then just the main thing that, of course, we're listening to all the ideas, and because we've got some good ideas the last time we did it. And we're going to read through and listen to all the ideas as well this time. But the main thing that I want to report to the board tonight is in 2019, the question is, how satisfied are you working for the city? That number was 85.6, and the number on our recent survey was 85.9. So it's still right there. 86% of the people have indicated that that they're satisfied working for the city. So I think that says a lot. Doesn't mean that we don't, again, we're not going to listen to the other comments. We can always make ourselves better. We're going to try to do that. Y'all know the number one comment is about health insurance again. That's the number one concern. And as we addressed in a previous meeting, we did get better loss results with our group health insurance policy this year. So we're headed in the right direction. We just got to put a couple, maybe 3 years together, and then we should have a lot more options as far as our health insurance price and company. So,
Health insurance still approved this year, though. We got the $500 card. We haven't had it.
yeah, the rate stayed about the same, and then there were a few other benefits that were added that we didn't have. So we're headed in the right direction, but mainly we understand that it's, that's been well communicated that the city's had some major loss ratio problems. That's why our health insurance has been so challenging. But the employees feel that, their families feel it. They're paying for their dependents. We're paying for the employees. They're paying for their dependents. So we're working together on this. We recognize that that's money that comes out of their pocket and affects their net compensation. So we want to get that as low as we possibly can too. So we still got some work to do there. The other thing that's real positive about the survey, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but in a couple of our largest departments, we had some major increases in what's termed morale. We feel like that even with all the crazy stuff that's happened in 2020 with COVID and everything, we still have had some large increases on positive morale in our department. So that was one of the main concerns that we had in 2019. And so we've seen some improvement in that area. And I thank our department heads this morning in our meeting for that. And so that's a compliment to them for improving our morale in our department. So anyway, that's it. Just want to give you a quick update on that. A couple other positive things for the city. It's still early. Y'all know that the budget year starts on October the 1st, but we've gotten numbers in thus far on for the sales tax revenues that were collected for October and November. And our sales tax revenues are already just in 2 months, $280,000 higher than our budget. So that's a very positive thing. It shows the resilience of Southaven and our people. We continue to move on with our lives and our business, even with all the challenges that are going on. We have an outstanding economy in Southaven, and this is a good sign of that. Related to that are tourism tax revenues, which y'all know both are geared towards the restaurants and hotels in Southaven. And again, with that, just in 2 months, that's tracking $85,000, just already in 2 months higher than what we budgeted for. So those are very positive things for our city. And let me go down my list here, make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Just another announcement, there is going to be some public mask handouts. We've done that in the past. We're going to do that again. I think it's scheduled. The emergency organization in DeSoto County Emergency is coordinating that, and I believe they're going to have that on Saturday. Chief Sky, is that correct?
That is correct. Saturday, and it's going to be from 9 to 3.
Okay, 9 to 3 Saturday. And then what is the location of the high schools again?
At the South Central.
Okay, this was at DeSoto Central High School. So 9 to 3 this Saturday, there's going to be another mask handout. And while we're talking about that, I'm going to be really quick with this. But I just want to let everyone know again that we all know what we've been through with COVID this year. And, I've learned throughout this pandemic that a lot of times when you make the statement to try to prevent fear and panic and to be positive, there's some that jump on that you don't take the virus seriously. And so just quickly, I want to reiterate to everyone, we are moving into November. The weather's changing. We've never been in November with COVID, or that we know about. Some people think we had it last November. That's still debatable. But my point is that the flu and everything else, COVID is not our only health risk. I mean, we have risk of flu and other things, and it's always ramped up in November. So I do have concerns about COVID and starting now in November. So I want to encourage everyone again to be safe. And what that means is just because you may not believe in certain government mandates does not mean that you don't take the virus seriously. And so as your mayor and on camera, I hope to share this video. I'm telling you now, I recommend any safety precaution that you can take, because if it saves one person, it was worth it. So we know that the statistics show that COVID is not life-threatening to the overwhelming majority of people, but still, listen to me. If what we do saves one person's life, it's worth all of us using good common sense, being smart. Wear a mask when I have a mask in my pocket. I don't wear it if I'm distanced. But when you go in somewhere and you're in a dense gathering, wear a mask. Use common sense with social distancing. Use hygiene. Do the things that you know to do. We all know what this is now. We've had it long enough in our society to know the risk. Everyone can make their decisions, but let's all be smart. Let's all keep our fellow man safe. So just because you try to be positive, which I've tried to do, I learned a long time in leadership that you sometimes can't change the facts, but the way you approach it is everything. And if you have a positive attitude, even in the most dire circumstances, it makes a difference. And so that's all I've tried to do is be positive throughout this whole thing. And so I've tried to encourage our other leaders to do the same thing. We know what this is, but let's be positive to it, okay? Let's don't live in fear. Let's don't panic, because fear and panic are a health risk on their own. So let's stay positive, but let's be smart, okay? And that's all I got to say about that. I'm speaking to all who may watch this tonight and in the future, just because, again, that I want to stay positive does not mean that I do not take the virus seriously. The virus is a very serious matter, and I encourage all of us to move forward in the safest way possible, but also not living in fear. All right, enough of that. We got that on the mask handouts. Then two other things. This is not on the agenda tonight, because it's the first time in our city's history we've done this. We've talked about this the whole time that we talked about South Square. But y'all know that it's been, at least my goal, I don't want to speak for everybody else, I think that we have an agreement there that with our commitment to South Square, not just South Square, but our Snowden district, we believe that we have a unique opportunity to create a true entertainment district there. And so in order to do that, you can now, in the state of Mississippi, create what's called a leisure and recreation district. And this was a law that was changed in 2018. The state approved this. And basically what it is just encourages areas that are walkable and safe, where you have a restaurant or a restaurant bar, sports bar, things like that, where you can have a plaza or areas where people can leave a restaurant and go shopping or go to like a plaza area for social gatherings, things like that, and they can take an alcoholic drink outside of the establishment. So what they would do, and the way the state defined it, is that what you would do is you would go out, there has to be strict boundaries to that, and then you have to define, what you allow, how much alcohol you would allow a person to have. So we've already started moving forward with that, and we're going to try to put that on the next agenda. But I want y'all to understand, give us all a chance to talk about it. This is one of those things that can be easily misunderstood. I can see it now that that we're trying to bring nightclubs and everything else to our city. I can already, before you tell me, I can already hear you saying it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and address that. This is not about nightclubs. It's not about changing the hours. All the hours of any kind of establishment stay the same. All it is defining a very tight boundary where people can take an alcoholic drink outside of the restaurant in a plastic cup. And there's big restaurants that would be tremendous for our city, that have their eye on our city right now, and this is important to them. So that's why it prompts the need for us to go ahead and do that. So what we did, and I've been doing the homework, Nick has been helping me, by law, what you have to do is pass a resolution, basically just states that that our city supports that in these tight boundaries. Then you have to define what can actually be taken out, how much quantity, how it is. So Nick has drawn up a resolution. We've talked about that. That'll be on the next agenda. And it specifically just limits the size of the amount of alcohol that can be taken out and the tight boundaries. So along with that, obviously there has to be concerns about the police. They need to have clear direction, on how they enforce that. And so there has to be a letter that Chief Moore has been studying that. Whitney has helped with that to create the boundaries and also, to indicate a police plan in doing that. It's really no different than what we do now at Snowgrove Park with the amphitheater. You have the same, basically the same risk there, or the same challenge for us to do. But we feel like, and Chief has indicated that he feels like it's not something that we can't do in a controlled way, in a positive way. So anyway, I didn't want anybody to misunderstand that. It's called a leisure and recreation district, And that's something that I'll be recommending that we approve at the next meeting to allow that in the silo area. As the snow district continues to develop, we may look at, or I may recommend to use some other areas, but we want to keep this tight for right now. But we think it'd be a tremendous thing for our city. We think it was smart, or I think it was smart on the state of Mississippi for tourism and economic development to, pass this law. So with that being said, before I move on to my last topic tonight, just now, is there any discussion about any thoughts or any concerns about the Leisure and Recreation District?
Mayor, I personally like to see us keep it on the west side of, Gateway, not crossing the bridge or going to the other side.
That's the way it is right now.
Okay.
It's actually designed, it's really small right now. It's mainly, because what you have there now is, you have May Boulevard that's already developed on the east side. And there's no development, or very little development. It is coming, but there's very little development on the west side. So right now, this area is clearly defined as the area on May Boulevard, and then about a block south of there where the new tequila upscale Mexican restaurant's coming. So it's a pretty tight block right there.
There are lots of foot traffic. Like you can go, someone can buy a drink, like walk store to store without having to sit down and stay at that restaurant. And so, it gives, it makes sense.
Thank you for saying that. And it does, it allows all the businesses to develop a synergy in that area. Like you said, you can leave one and go to the other, you can shop, that kind of thing. And again, this is not, I had somebody ask me one time, what are you talking about with the entertainment district? And I knew where they were going with it. No, this is not like,
Well, if you spend 1 hour in one place, you're only spending money there. If you take a drink, you walk to the boutique store,
Yeah.
you're spending money there, and so it helps everybody. The kind of thing, read.
Very, very well said. And these establishments that we have in mind when this is created are establishments that bring a quality dining experience. This is not, just like a sports bar or something like that. It's geared towards an entertainment type establishment that also has quality dining as well. So that's kind of the vision that we have. And I know that the discussion in the past has been similar to making this like this square in Oxford, Mississippi. If anybody's been there, you have some great restaurants on the square. They have some great events that they hold there on the square. And so they have this at that location too. Any other comments or anything else about that? And we'll get that out. It'll, like I said, it'll be on the next agenda. And if there's any questions between now and then, please reach out to me and I'll get any information that anyone needs or answer any questions. Okay, we'll move on to my last topic tonight. We canceled, we didn't, the Chamber of Commerce canceled the Christmas parade this year for obvious reasons. They had to make that decision in September. There were people preparing floats that wanted to know. They didn't want to go spend money building floats, making commitment, and then find out last minute that we're going to have to cancel the parade. So it was important to make that decision then as opposed to now. And so the chamber did reach out to me and ask my thoughts about it. And at that time I told them, we don't know 3 months from now, what the COVID situation is going to be like. They expressed concern, again, about having to refund money, this and that. And so there was a decision made by the chamber board of directors, chamber president, and also my input that we would cancel the Christmas parade. And so that decision was made. Alderman Kelly had some questions about that. He says it so well, like he always does, that again, about being positive. I appreciate positive people right now, but he talks about how people need uplifting things right now. We hear enough doom and gloom. We don't need any more. We know the bad things that are out there, but anything positive we can do is uplifting for our citizens. We know the Christmas parade's an awesome thing, but if you truly want to look at it, there's not many things that get more risky. If you've ever been to the Christmas parade, you know how dense the gatherings are. People are all over the place tight. So it is a very risky thing from a COVID perspective. But Alderman Kelly has an idea, and Alderman Brooks, would you put the mic up to his phone? And Alderman Kelly, would you share with the board and the audience your ideas as an alternative for the Christmas parade?
Absolutely, thank you for that. Basically, what we're thinking is we do a virtual sidelines to watch it because we're not going to have time to or anything. But this way that we can still have the spirit of Christmas, we should help enjoy during this time that we're in, and just keep it safe for everyone that's coming as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and what I mentioned to Alderman Kelly is that, I don't know as far as this time frame, if it gives people enough time to do that. Alderman Kelly, offered to, help coordinate that, and, so if it's not too late to make it happen, I think it's a good idea. But anyway, just wanted to hear everybody's thoughts about that and how we go about it. The chamber is always, or for many years, has been the organization that organized the parade. We still have some questions for them, how much they can be involved and help with that, but I guess my only thought, Alderman Kelly, also that we didn't talk about today would there be a need for an event insurance policy? If the city's doing this without the chamber, then that would put the liability on the city. So we would need to consider having an event insurance policy if there are going to be people on the roadway that could prevent some risk. But Nick, if it's all virtual, I don't know what our risk is, but.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I mean, obviously, we think you can get an insurance policy. I just don't know.
I think we got you too.
Well, I can sure you can get an insurance
Exactly.
policy.
You get a policy.
Yeah. You got some people here that can help you out.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I can't. Oh, yeah, well, neither of us can.
Yeah, I think you get a policy. Being a virtual, I can't imagine that much risk to it. But I guess we should be coordinating from a virtual perspective on how you feel that. That's the way to understand virtual. I can't go on Zoom.
Well, you're a lot of help with that.
Well, you can get a policy. That's all I'm saying.
But mainly back to being the city attorney, if we did something like that, obviously with a true parade, you have the risk of a child running out into traffic, things like that. But with virtual, it would be more geared towards, libel, slander, stuff like that. I mean,
Just make sure that you have all those protections in your, as the hosting form.
yeah.
There's almost a form or hosting like policy. I don't know what exactly you call that, but I think it'd be all right to put an event policy.
Okay. So if the city is able to produce the virtual Christmas parade and secure an event insurance policy for that, does anyone have any concerns moving forward with that?
I mean, I think it's, like you said, it's gonna be pretty much whoever wants to come be in it, come here, stage here, and we can probably use the road going back towards the library, since it's not open now. You just, have them stay here, just go back there, and just figure the lot in the empty out back there, and just somewhere along the line videotape it. I mean, I think everybody, you don't have that much exposure, I don't think, it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any thoughts on that?
That's a good idea. Just close the side of him and just move that around the hall.
Yeah.
Excellent alternative.
So Alderman Kelly, everybody likes the idea from what I'm hearing. I guess the other challenge would be is, who does the legwork to put it together, and I appreciate, your efforts or offer to provide your efforts. So do you want to talk about that more, maybe kind of help put a plan together on how we would do it?
Absolutely. I can get together with the chamber to see what, if any, help they're able to offer. I can gather some volunteers to get it going, but I'm very confident we'll be able to make this be just a successful parade.
Okay. Well, once again, I appreciate your idea, and so we'll go ahead and, if you will, just kind of start that ball rolling and let me know how I can help, and we'll try to make it happen.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and that's all I have this evening. Does anyone have any questions for me, board, or anybody? Okay, we'll move on. Next on our agenda, our citizens' agenda is actually, I'm sorry.
Before you go to the citizens, could I have a moment here?
Sure.
Chief Moore, could you come forward for a second? I've had probably my busiest week
as Aldermen this past weekend, and stuff was something going on. And we had a pretty violent weekend over in Colonial Hills and stuff over there. I wanted to get Chief Moore to come forward and talk about it, and maybe see if we can reassure some of the citizens and that kind of stuff to talk about. I know one of the biggest concerns is what can you do as a police department to try to keep that kind of stuff from happening?
Obviously, in a public setting, I'm not going to discuss anything regarding the case. I can tell you, 2 weeks ago, we had the double homicide in Colonial Hills, and within 24 hours, our guys had everybody in custody. We worked all night, in the morning. I can tell you that was not a random act, that the victims and the suspects all were acquainted. I will share that we feel in this situation this weekend that was the same. A lot of progress has been made today. This was a situation where the crime scene spanned over a large area, so our guys have been pulling video for 3 or 4 days from different locations. They had a lot of evidence where they can sift through. This is going to take a little bit more time, but they're making a lot of good progress with it. Again, this is where we think the actors involved all knew each other. So it's not something random that occurred.
Is there anything that you could be doing, or we could be doing as a city, you think that keeps us from happening?
So a situation just like both of these, we don't feel either one of these were pre-planned events that just occurred. It's very difficult, to say, what we could have done to prevent this, other than, I'll tell you that I pulled the cash sheets from Friday night, and we had the first event was around 9. We were working some other major things, wrecks. I had 1 car available during that time period. The main event in Colonial Hills occurred at 2300. I had no cars in service when that call came out. The third event occurred at 3:30 a.m. Out of 14 cars, I had 5 in service. They weren't tied up. Which, certain times of the day, that's just the way it is. We're just busy. So, we're looking at doing some old-time details in the area, traffic enforcement, being visible. We've already got a large number of assets assigned to that part of the city every day. The Ward 1 and Ward 2 have the most cars assigned to them, other than the mall area. So we're already stacked in there, but if they're tied up, they're tied up. I can just tell you, I'd be glad to share some information out of the public setting about the case today, but they're making great progress with it.
So there's nothing that you really think we could be doing right now? But this is just kind of a random thing that happens, and we just kind of react.
I asked Major Allred this morning. He's been here. He's in his 34th year. I think he's been here 30 or 29. This is the first time he's ever seen a situation like this in his entire career here. So this is absolutely not a common occurrence. We plan on giving these people a place to stay for quite a while, so that we won't have to deal with them again. I can just tell you, the guys are working hard, and I'm quite sure we'll have some closure soon. And I know you've had a busy weekend, but I can tell you, just give a little time. Been working, you're doing a great job.
What's the chances of us getting an extra car by Ward 1 and Ward 2?
Those wards are already loaded up. To do that, I'd have to pull somebody from another neighborhood. But to be honest with you, certain times of the day, the units are scattered everywhere. So, you're already loaded up. Ward 1 and Ward 2 already have more cars than any other area of the city. But we base it off data. And unfortunately, you have some data in your area. So you get more units now than a lot of other areas in the city.
If I may for just a minute, I didn't know you were going to ask that. I would have liked to have had a heads up on that. There's a reason, as Chief stated, that we don't discuss some things in a public meeting. It's not a transparency issue. It's a strategy issue. Obviously, for our police to be effective in fighting crime, we can't on camera, tell what we're doing. But the important thing I want everybody to understand that's listening tonight is something like that happens this weekend. That's not when this man and all our police department, that's not when I start thinking about stuff like this. This is something that is a daily thing, and just because we don't talk about it in a public meeting doesn't mean that he and I don't have conversations about it, that he's not having conversations with all his command staff. We understand the challenges, and we are working on that. But there's just some things, as he stated, that don't need to be discussed for the benefit of the city. They don't need to be discussed in a public meeting. So,
And I know your concern was, and also, my main thing was that I just wanted to get him to reassure them a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, I think that's what the people were looking for. They want some reassurance that, in what you said and what he said, both, go along with that reassurance is that, it's not something we're not looking into.
right. And there's been, not to get too far down the road, there's a large amount of discussion about, as he said, about data-driven policing, and not only that, but us knowing the areas of our city that are more susceptible to certain crimes, and so we're aware of that, and we are working to always be conscious of that and do what we can about it. There's some things, though, that it's fair to note. We don't have to explain to everyone that may be watching how our country is, how 2020 has been. When you see some of the youth in our country, the things that they do now, that they would have never done 10 years ago. And so a lot of these things, as Chief noted, this is not for someone that's just, for the most part, a random thing where someone has to be terrified in their home in most of these situations. And we don't know everything yet. It's a little premature to be making judgments on what happened this weekend. But in the event that happened on Halloween night, that was a situation where it was a fight at a party among people that know each other. It's not, they knew each other. They're all related, or at least friends. So it's not like someone just showed up at a party or something like that. So that makes me feel better, as opposed to just having something like that happen randomly. But anyway, this last event, as Chief stated, they're not done investigating all that. Our police have done an incredible job of responding. Like he said, the event that happened on Halloween night, those people were caught the next day, or 2 days later at least. And so our police are doing an incredible job. And so I guess, to make sure I say this accurately, I want to make sure everybody understands, I appreciate your question, because I have the same concerns you do, and I want our citizens to feel as comfortable as they can. However, let's make sure that there's no misinterpretation of this discussion suggesting that our police didn't respond properly or didn't prevent that. Our police respond in a timely way.
Suggested that our police don't patrol Love that is definitely needs to be reiterated.
Yeah, very well said. Because we deal with challenges. Like I said, we deal with things that, as he just mentioned, that Major Allred has said, we deal with things now that we didn't deal with 10 years ago. And just because you have more patrol doesn't mean that a criminal is not going to commit a crime. So we're going to do everything we can. I'm committed to that, and I share the concern of any citizen when something like that happens. And I'll tell you, I know you get calls, but imagine the calls I get. I get the same calls you get. I miss sleep. I worry about things like that too. So, but anyway, I appreciate Chief's comments.
Again, I'm very confident learning what I learned this afternoon about the investigation. Really can't share the details yet, but I think sooner than later we'll have some closure, and then we can share some more details once that occurs. But this again, just like the one on Halloween night, this was not just a random occurrence. We're pretty sure the parties involved knew each other. It just happened to be a moving situation where they weren't isolated or located in one spot, so to speak, like the last one, which it makes our investigation much harder. We have to look for evidence along several blocks and occurring at 11 p.m. at night makes another challenge for us. But the guys, they're doing a great job, and I can tell you, you know, as far as your area goes, we cover it probably as good as or better than any area in the city. And it's just, you know, we're growing. City located in a major metropolitan area, we're busy. So,
Morality starts now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that reassurance. That's what I'm talking about.
and obviously, you know, I was out, they call me anytime they got a question. You know, no hesitate to call me. I'll share whatever I can share with them, you know. And we glad to come to a neighborhood watch meeting, homeowners meeting, whatever I got, you know. If you have something like that, please invite us. We'll be glad to come to it. Anything else on that?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you and all the job that you and your officers do too.
Okay, we'll move on to the citizens agenda. Would you please come forward?
I'm Brenda, and I live in Colonial Hills, where we're talking about Charles R. Aldermen. I'm not here to bash the police, because Southaven has the best police department in the world. And I know that y'all here, they're not coming from our neighborhood. I live on Poster, I see them all the time coming through. I understand that they can only do what they can do. I'm here begging for us to come up with a plan where our neighborhood can participate in doing something to curb the problem that's going on in our neighborhood, because you can't pretend there's not a problem. There's gang issues. Section 8 is brought in a lot of problems. We need to figure out something we can do as a neighborhood, because we're losing our neighborhood, and some of us can't afford to live here. My house is paid for. I've been there since the 70s. We have a lot of good people in our neighborhood, but we're losing it. I'm just beg y'all, let us come up with some plans. We need some help. And like I said, I appreciate everything y'all do. I know y'all work
We'll
for
be
it.
more than happy to come to,
But, you know, we have a lot of older people in our neighborhood, and they are living in fear. I had a run-in about 7 or 8 months ago with some elements in the neighborhood. The next morning, my mailbox is plowed over. I've lived there since the 70s and never had my mailbox run over. It was, when I called the police, it was just a random incident. I'm not an idiot. You know, but I know they can't prove otherwise, but I know what happened. We've got to do something. There's a house at the corner from my street. Everybody knows that that's a gang-related situation up there.
Hey, Chief, how many sky cops do we have?
we've got to,
Maybe, and I'm thinking offhand, so please, I'm not insinuating anything, maybe something we could maybe discuss in the future, maybe get more. I mean, that's possible, but they should, yeah, to, especially for the neighborhood, that keeps, we've had a path, we plant those, and they know they're being watched, and it deters behavior.
You know, I'm begging for some relief for our neighborhood, because we have a good neighborhood, we have good people that live in there, but they're all talking about moving out, and then the older people are terrified, they're terrified, and they should be, because if they speak up, there's no telling what will happen.
You know what I mean when I'm talking about sky cops?
Yes.
They can actually watch.
Right.
Okay.
Just, but maybe we could come up with a citizens group that knows things that we could do. We have a neighborhood watch, and people are on the neighborhood watch page all the time talking about things going on. But, you know, you can watch all day long, but until we come up with a plan of how to handle what we're seeing, it doesn't do a bit of good watch. I don't know. I'm thinking if we just could get together with the police department, with anybody who's willing to talk to us, and give us some ideas on what we can do, other than just watch. We need to be proactive, or we're gonna lose our neighborhood. It's gonna be like living in Memphis in a year.
Well, I've had some ideas, a lot of them will be very popular, and that is the broken window theory as far as dealing with code enforcement, right? And a lot of times, if you don't make people feel welcome, then, you know, maybe gang activity is not as, would be as prevalent. That if we go, you know, force it more, and it's gonna upset some people, but, you know.
And you know, the folks that are law abiding don't care if it's upset.
Correct.
We don't care. We just want our neighborhood back. And we don't know how to do it by ourselves. Neighborhood watch, like I said, we can watch all day long, but that ain't answering the problem.
No, that's not the problem. If I may, I can probably share some information that you, at least, it's not going to solve the problem tonight, but I want you to know this. And like I said earlier, I can't tell you everything that our police chief and I talk about, but what your concerns are, they didn't start this weekend. I've had those concerns for a long time. We've had many discussions about it. This man standing to my right over here can tell you that I talked to him a lot about this, and I understand the challenge. It is a challenge, and I'm not here to talk about the problems all night. I want to spend more time talking about solutions. But let me tell you two things that you need to know. Two things that are a problem in the area are, Alderman Brooks mentioned it, you have a problem with juveniles, you have a problem with the laws. The laws, like we've tried, I'm aware that in the summertime when the kids are out of school, we have a lot more crime in the area and they're done by juveniles. Well, our city attorney can tell you more about that, but there are laws with juveniles that restrict us from enforcing things with them. That's a big problem, because a lot of these people that are committing these crimes are not 40-year-old people. These are people that are very young people that have chosen to go down the wrong path.
And that's the issues that we're having right now in our neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm familiar with what's going on, and a lot of them, and it's they have no supervision at home, so it's putting a greater burden on our police, having to do something that, 25 years ago a parent took care of, and the police never had to get involved. So that's one of the issues. The second thing is rental property, and this board can tell you that there have been, when I tell you the hours of discussion with our city attorney exploring all options to put restrictions, not restrictions per se, but a little more control over rental property, that's where your problems are. You mentioned all the great people that live in Columbia Hills. I can tell you right now, there's people living in Columbia Hills that have been there for 50 years, and they have, if you go look at their house, and they have pride of ownership. Their house looks just like it did in 1975. They have pride of ownership, but then they're mixed in now with these rental properties. And so it's just a fact. Everybody knows I'm an insurance person. It's an underwriting fact, and it's a crime fact, that a non-owner occupied dwelling is a totally different animal. When somebody lives in a home, they take accountability for their home and responsibility for it. Statistically, not everybody, but statistically, when it's non-owner occupied, it's a totally different ballgame. You get poor maintenance of the property, you get an instability factor from a family standpoint, and these are the negatives that are hurting Columbia Hills and a few of our other neighborhoods right now. And so I mentioned that we've researched this. We're not done researching. We're going to keep working towards finding a way to do something about the rental property. A lot of these the event that happened on Halloween night, that's a rental house. So many events happen due to the high percentage of rental property. So we are aware of that. The other thing, Alderman Brooks mentioned the property maintenance code. That's what started the maintenance code is, like you said, the broken glass theory. That's a fact. I 100% agree with that. Criminals are going to come to areas that they perceive to be more attractive, or that they can get away with what they're doing. And a lot of that has to do with the condition, what the properties look like. When somebody drives in a neighborhood, they assess, hey, okay, there's a lot of rental property here, people don't really care. This is a good place for us. Or they can drive to another neighborhood and it sends a totally different message. That is a fact. So,
well, let me interrupt you on that. I know that that's an issue, but I also have been seeing things improve as far as appearances in our neighborhood due to code enforcement.
thank you. We worked hard on
And
that.
along 51 in our area,
Yeah.
because like I said, I live on Custer, a vast improvement in the appearance of the building. That's helping, but it's not solving our issue with the gangs, because the gangs are what's the problem in our neighborhood.
Right.
I'm just gonna be blunt.
No, you're exactly right. I'm not
Yes.
disagreeing with you. What I'm trying to tell you is that that's where we are and the steps that we got to take to, the things that we can do things about. There's federal housing laws that restrict us tightly. Like, if you left it up to me, I'll just tell you, I could probably solve a lot of that problem. But I can't do that because there's federal housing laws that restrict what we can do as a local government. So that makes it a challenge for us. But what you said, like you noticed the things that were done on Highway 51 at Custer, Whitney, how much time do we spend on that? I mean, that's something that we fought over and over. We arrested a man in this building that came to a meeting who refused to abide by the ordinances of our city, and I vowed not to give up, and I didn't give up until he was arrested, until he did make it right and to protect the ordinances and integrity of the ordinances in our city.
But you can clearly see that there's an improvement. Anybody who's lived in that area for any time, you
Yeah.
can see that there's.
Well, thank you for saying that, but we have more work to do. You're right, we have a problem, and we are going to work to.
I had read something about some kind of game thing where it's a youth program to involve the youth in some kind of anti-gang thing, and it's a federal program. I don't know very much more than what I read, but I was thinking maybe if we could even get some kind of program. I don't know. I just know we need some help.
It's a multifactorial problem, there's no doubt. It's not one thing, it didn't happen overnight. It took decades and decades to put us in this situation. But no, all those are good ideas, and again, it's not something we just started talking about. We'll continue discussion on it. We actually, and I'll go ahead and tell you, this board actually had another discussion about this. I think it was at our last meeting about the rental property again. So we're aware of the challenge, but all I can tell you is I assure you that our police are working, they understand.
Oh, I know that.
They're doing their homework. They know the challenges that we have there. I know the challenges that we have there. And I can just tell you, there's nobody, I know I'm not the only one, but there's nobody in this city that loves Colonial Hills more than I do and has concerns about it. Because it's not the neighborhood that I grew up in, and I love that neighborhood, and I'll just be honest with you, it pisses me off. When I see the things that have happened over there, it literally pisses me off. And I promise you, I'm committed to doing anything I can as the mayor, and I know our police chief is, and we'll continue working to try to improve it any way we can.
Okay, the last thing I'm gonna bug y'all about, and by the way, I was here about my garbage, and that was resolved, Wayne County. With COVID, it's hard to have a neighborhood watch meeting. So, and we need to have a neighborhood watch meeting, which Charlie's talked about this, and get the police and people to come to talk to us if we come up with some solutions and things we can do. So, could we not have one outdoors?
I think there's a way, like I stated earlier in the meeting, there's a way to do things in a safe, amended manner.
Okay.
That we could do it safely. Obviously, with it getting dark earlier, you'd want to have that during the daytime where you can have, a nice weather weekend.
We can have it in the FEMA building, which is really big for social distancing.
So the answer to your question is yes.
So maybe if we can all get together and think of some things, and then we can schedule a meeting and
Yes.
be an active neighborhood and proactive. Thank y'all.
Just pick a date and let Charlie know, and I'll be there.
Charlie.
Thank you for carrying your name involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
More citizens like you.
Yes, ma'am.
Along the same lines, I live in Colonial Hills as well. My concern with the rentals, investors are buying properties lickety split. And they are offering more than homeowners can afford to offer. Here's the listed price they offer above. Is there something we can do about that so that we can get homeowners buying homes instead of investors?
You asked the best question of the night. If we can answer that question, then we can solve our problem, and that is a very complicated thing. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what's going on. And we again, back to housing laws. How do you as a city, for us to come in and tell someone that they can't sell their house? Think about that for a second. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. If we could stop the rental properties or control the rental properties, at least eliminate the degree of absentee ownership. That's where you get the problem. When you have somebody who lives in Southaven, you have a lot of people like this that live in Southaven and they have 1 to 3 rental houses. It's a totally different ballgame than some company in California that owns 50. Totally different ballgame. And so if we could answer your question tonight, I mean, I think we could solve the problem. But Nick, yeah, I mean, we've talked about this thousands and thousands of times. You just can't tell somebody what they can do with their property legally.
And I alluded to that earlier. I want to hold their feet to the fire, whether it's the company, you know, he's talking the companies out in California, they come out here, they buy up all the properties. I have friends on the other side of town, and they got a phone call today, or a mail piece offering to buy a property. Our home is not listed. That's what's going on. That's over there in Snowcross. So it's their.
I didn't call it.
Yes. Yes. It's a citywide problem, and we have bashed our heads up against the wall trying to come up with legal solutions. We, like you said, we have to do it with the federal government as well as state government, and we're fine. So we have to figure out what we can do based on those two.
So there's no legal way to say during a home sale that it needs to be offered to a live-in
A lot of state law.
buyer first.
No, in federal law.
Federal. I would be about, you know, having, I think we discussed before, having, this will not be popular with federal homeowners, that's okay. But having some kind of fee and, you know, figuring out a way to hold their feet to the fire.
Well,
Make
that's
them
what I thought about
financially
the
viable,
HOA for our.
financially, you know, responsible, viable, you know, for what's going on.
Okay.
It's not that we've talked about this ad nauseum for now 7 years, 8 years almost. That was one of the first things we tried to make. And if we would have had a solution by now, we would have made
Nick, what would, if we, just hypothetically, just to put this in perspective, if somebody, if Charlie makes a motion, Alderman Hicks makes a motion tonight, and we get a second, and we vote in favor of it to make it an ordinance in our city where you can only sell your home to someone who owner occupies that. How's that from a legal standpoint?
Or for a time period, or that house has to be listed for 7 days only to owner occupied buyers. I can't get in, I was trying to sell my house, I want something bigger,
it. So real estate.
I can't.
Yeah, I don't mean legally it wouldn't hold up. Two things, legally it wouldn't hold up. I mean, you can't, the government can't come in and tell someone who they can sell and not sell to, and that's, it just kind of, I hate to use it, they don't have that, legally we don't have that power. And then number two, even if we did have that power, we don't, I don't know how it's enforceable. So say you want to sell your home, and we have an ordinance that says, oh, you can't sell it to anybody, but you can't sell it to anybody that lives in the city and has to be owner occupied.
Well, the
And you
mortgage companies can figure it out as to how they're gonna charge me.
The way to make it work is to figure out how to make it unappealing for those companies in California who want to come here and buy the homes. Until we figure that out, that's what's gonna continue doing what it's doing. We have to figure out a way to make them uncomfortable and not want to come here and buy up all the homes.
The cat's kind of out of the bag. What's happened is, in our neighborhood, we had so many people that didn't care who bought their houses whenever they moved out. And now we've got so many rental companies over there buying stuff. I mean, I think I pointed out maybe 6 or 8 months ago, we had somebody bought a house, he paid $60,000 for the house. And he's got a sign out front, he's renting that house for $1,500 a month. And then what you have is he says Section 8's welcome. Is that most folks don't realize with Section 8, those people are moving in there, they're living for maybe $100 a month living there. The rest of it, the federal government pays for. So that's why it's so appealing, because they can rent these houses for, you know, twice as much than they can rent them out to just regular people, because they're federally funded. And that's the obstacle. I mean, there's nothing we can do as a city. I mean, we've talked about having a rental ordinance, and the problem is, I mean, that's one of the things when I first brought it when I came up and got in office was, can we do this? And we can't. I mean, because, you know, there's no way you can enforce it. And so, really, until people start having pride in what they have and say, hey, look, I'm not going to sell my house. You know, I had one of my neighbors the other day, you know, he's complained for the last 3 years about all the rental properties, and he said, you know what, I'm through, I'm moving. His mama still lives, you know, lives in the neighborhood. He turned right around and sold his house to, you know, we buy houses. You know, I mean, you know, so and they offered him exactly what he asked for. And I mean, it wasn't even on the market 24 hours. So until people start doing that and have a little pride and saying, hey, look, I'm not gonna sell my house to somebody who wants to, rent it out, it's not gonna change. I mean, and unfortunately, my thing is I just think that, our police department, they do a fantastic job, but they're so short-handed as far as trying to get stuff done. I mean, they're so busy. I mean, these guys, from the second they start their shift, they're running calls now. It's not like it was 10 years ago when they could ride around the neighborhood and talk to everybody and that kind of stuff and build that kind of rapport with people. Those days are gone. And I don't even know if we hired 50 more policemen today if it could change back to that. Because we're so close to Memphis, all that crime's coming over the lake. I mean, I Google search today, Southaven, Mississippi crime, and it pops up there talking. I mean, it's because of the proximity is exactly why I listed. We're in the top 10 areas of the whole state as far as crime is concerned. I mean, we don't see it, but it's because of the proximity. And if you read the article about it, talking about it, that's what it is. So, I mean, it's really frustrating. I mean, it is. I mean, just to see this stuff happening. And if you doing stuff like y'all are doing tonight makes a difference. I mean, we know, and I mean, the mayor has as big a concern, and so the rest of this board, about the problems over there. But the reason I wanted to bring it up tonight is to make sure that, that you guys knew that it wasn't lip service, that, we really mean what we're saying when we say we care about this stuff, and that our chief is really on board with doing all he can do and with what he's got. And so, because, I mean, you know how it is with social media nowadays, everybody thinks, oh, they're just saying it to make us happy. But, it's really frustrating. I mean, being the newest guy here, I mean, I came in with all these great ideas and stuff thinking you can make it happen, only to find out, we're tied, our hands are tied. There's only so much we can do. And, but, I mean, I understand until people start having pride in our neighborhood again, especially like everybody's mentioned the older people, whatever it is, if they decide they want to move somewhere else and that kind of stuff, or they tell their children, hey, look, when I pass away, I don't want you to sell my house to just anybody. I want to sell it to somebody else. Who's going to live there and be their house and take stake in the community. That's just kind of where we're at.
We've also interviewed other cities all over the state of Mississippi, and we can't find anybody that's doing it legally correctly. The best thing that we've found to help deter crime is a strong homeowners association. A homeowners association has more power than we do as far as our code enforcement and things like that. So when you can get citizens involved, and the problem with an older subdivision like Colonial Hills is you're never going to get enough people to agree to a fee that they've got to pay once a year or once a month to start a homeowners association. So that's another hurdle that you're going to face.
And just to let you know that this is not something that's not been contemplated. We've had detailed discussions about the rental properties, knowing that we can't, what you said, like I said, you hit it on the head. That's how you get to the root of the problem. But we can't do that. You can't tell someone who they can sell a home to. But what we could do, what we thought about is having a mandatory inspection for any time the ownership, like if somebody changes their water bill, or there's another ways that would signal when the occupancy is changing in the home. We've talked about having a plan to make it mandatory that there's an inspection of the home, which you find out a lot when you inspect a home. The problem with that is the occupancy of homes change so much, that's a massive undertaking. We don't even know how many people it would take. I mean, we would be forming what in other places would be a housing department if we did that. And so it would be a tremendous number of employees need a whole new department to do that. So that's challenging. That's one of the reasons. And let's just say it. I mean, to do something like that, I mean, you got to have a way of paying for it. I mean, you have to raise taxes or do something else. That's just the facts. But we do hear you. And just to set the record straight, I agree with Alderman Hoots, but just to make sure we're on the same page, we're not rated as one of the highest crime. Actually, it's just a flip side, which again is a compliment to our police department. We have our problems now. We're a growing city. We're not a little city like we were in the past. We have our crimes here. We're not making light of that, but overall, we're still rated The last rating that I saw, we were still in the top 10 of cities our size, or actually it goes much smaller than us, so it's a compliment to our police department. We're still rated as one of the safest cities in Mississippi, so let's keep that in perspective. We're not on the bottom of
What I was
any.
further is saying because of, we're putting up.
Right. There's no
That's why
doubt.
the crime was-
Yeah, Memphis is a challenge for us, but Memphis, all our crime doesn't come from Memphis either, just to let you know. There's some, we have our own criminals, and there's other cities in Mississippi that are hot spots that we face challenges for, so it's not just, Memphis is not our only challenge. But anyway, back to the issue, what you said is correct. If there were a way we could do that, we hear you, but we're going to continue looking at it. My ears are open. I mean, anything that we can do, and like I said, a lot of the things that we've talked about, I've realized that they're stricken by housing law, federal housing laws to keep us from doing it. But we'll keep working, and we welcome the input. So I appreciate you coming forward.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
And we definitely appreciate you. You are noticed.
I appreciate that. Yes, ma'am?
So, I understand the rental issue, I understand all that. But along Raymond's, Mr. Flores' request of solutions, I've known all of y'all, I know every one of y'all personally, so you know me. But my question to you is, what I got out of what our chief said, and let me just tell you, that when he said there was no cars on duty, when that call came in Saturday night.
No cars.
He wasn't saying there was no cars on
Well,
duty.
I meant available. When he said there were no cars available, I was stunned. Because when I tell you, we heard the gunshots and we heard the sirens and they came and they were there and they responded and they did their job.
Within
And
seconds.
it seemed, it was amazing. Because I was shocked
Yes,
at the response time. So I have nothing but compliments for our police department. But what I'm asking you people, you said there was $280,000 above and beyond the budget already from one tax.
Right.
There's 85 above and beyond the budget from another tax. What are y'all gonna do to get more police on the streets in our city?
We're already doing that now. And what you said, first of all, the tourism tax, by law, that money can only be used for specified reasons. It doesn't go in the general fund. It can't be used by law to hire new police officers. The sales tax revenue does go in the general fund, so that's why I'm talking about it. That's why it's such a positive thing. When you have growth in our city, and again, the same people that criticize our growth, that we're, oh, here we go building something. I saw comments, I got comments today like, why are y'all developing on this corner? This whole city is getting built out. Why are you doing that? Well, when things like that happen, it produces more money for the general fund, which allows us to do things to hire more police officers. In our recent budget, we hired 6 new police officers. I don't know if you know this, we went to a commitment to implement the first body cameras for our police officers. We added 13 new squad cars for them. So these things are expensive. The police and fire budget are by far the 2 most expensive budgets for our city. So there's nobody up here, I can tell you, there's not a person up here that's not committed to public safety.
These are the things that I want to know as a citizen of Columbia.
Yeah, the answer
These
is,
are the things that I need to know. These are the
Yeah.
things we need to be doing. Because what's going on in our neighborhood is going to be happening in years and 5 years. You're right there by Tanger. I'm telling you, it's not going to stay in Colonial Hills. And if our police department don't get what they need, and our fire department.
so let me
don't get
make sure I
what they
understand.
need,
Are you suggesting that we're not getting our police department what they need?
I'm not suggesting that.
What are you
saying-
suggesting?
I'm suggesting that we need to hire more. We need to pay them more money,
Yeah.
and we need to get more of them on the line.
Yeah, we're committed to doing that. Like I said, we just added 6 new officers this
And
year.
we don't need to be putting city funds into other things that could be put into that. And I'm not,
Specifically, what are you
I'm not
talking about?
specific in anything. I'm just saying, every decision that gets made by you people for the next
Yeah.
10 years needs to be, is this something we really need, or is this money that can go into our police department?
Absolutely. We
or our
couldn't
fire
agree with
department?
these people up here. I know I'm speaking for them. Nobody could agree with you more. And the things that we put money in, this board sets the budget every year. It's heavily discussed. And a lot of the things that I could probably guess what you're talking about, but I'm not going to do that. But the thing that also that I would encourage you to think about is you have to make, if you want to have a commitment to change your police department, have more officers, which we do, you have a choice on a given budget year. You can either raise taxes, which, you know, we have to recognize that. I mean, we have to be fair to our citizens, so we've not raised taxes. We could solve a lot, if you want to hire a bunch of officers, we could take a 4 mil tax increase right now. But this board has decided not to do that, but we are conscious of the fact that we have challenges. We are going to add more police officers. What I was going to tell you, and I'm going to encourage you to understand this, is that a lot of the expenditures we make are investments in our city. When you invest in your city, you start seeing the $280,000 increase in sales tax. So we're spending money investing to provide a return for our city that's going to put our city in a tremendously better financial condition, which allows us to give raises to all our departments, to add more police officers. So the suggestion that we're not committed to our police department is not true. And I don't know if that's where you're going with that, but I just want to make sure you understand.
No, that's
Well
not what I
over
said.
2/3 of our general fund budget goes to public safety.
Well,
And that's not what I'm
Over
saying.
2/3.
Actually, 120% property tax we collect goes to public safety. And I will tell you this, Ron, that for the last 5 years, the first 2 years of growth, for the last 5 years, the number one priority in every budget year is in public safety, which is police and fire.
And that's good.
Every time.
So then my next question along those lines is there something we can do to maybe close some of the entrances into our neighborhood so that those people that come into our neighborhood and perform crime have fewer ways to get out?
Some of those crimes that are committed in your neighborhood are from the people in your neighborhood.
I understand that.
That's
I fully do, I understand that, but it would make it easier for people to catch them when they respond. If they didn't have, they did it in John David Wheeler's neighborhood, they did that. They cut that street off, go into that neighborhood, right across from Tanger. They sealed that street off. right there by the community church.
No,
I don't know that was the purpose of it, but it served
He
that
doesn't
purpose.
live in their tank.
right, but I'm explaining to you that that's not the purpose for that street closing was due to a drainage problem. We had to take out, widen the ditch because the homes in Plum Point had backed up to that with flooding. That had nothing to do with restricting access.
But is that something that can be done?
It can be done, but just so you know, you have to be careful of that. When you start restricting access, you're also restricting your own public safety people from being able to get to someone in a hurry. So not just the police, but an ambulance. You start making somebody drive 3 minutes out of the way, that could be the difference in a heart attack, somebody dying or living from a heart attack.
Right. I'm just throwing out ideas to you guys to consider because, again, we know the problems, we're aware of them.
Sure.
But we're trying to find solutions.
By the same token, you may want a road closed.
I'd like to put a gate at the end of my code, but I'd like to put a gate at the end of my code.
Did you say gate?
Yes.
That's an idea.
I thought about that already. We've already discussed
A
it.
lot of people don't like gates in the city. That's interesting that you bring up gates.
Well, I mean, we are just all trying to figure out ways that we can. And I was alarmed to hear that on a regular basis, we have all of our officers dedicated to different things.
But didn't you just say that? I'm just being fair. Didn't you just praise our police for how quick they were there?
Well, they're amazing. It was amazing.
They are amazing, but my point is, no matter how many police officers you put on the street, they're going to respond. And it is a numbers game to a degree, but it still doesn't stop a criminal from committing a crime.
But you said we're getting bigger. And the bigger we get, the more there are, and the more are going to be required. And that is what I gathered from all of the conversations that I heard tonight.
Yeah.
We are getting bigger, and it will not stay in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
It will not stay in 2 wards. It will move.
Certainly. And I know you weren't here at our public budget meetings, but as Alderman Flores stated, we talked about this heavily in public meetings during our budget. Just to update you, we talked about a plan of adding, and I don't want to quote the number of officers because that's something we don't want to tell the criminals what we're doing.
I agree.
But we have a plan. We know we're looking down the road, like for the same concerns that you expressed. We're not looking for just this year. We're looking down the road. We have a plan each year how we financially get to X number of officers because we know what you said, we're doing that. I just want to assure you that, I just felt like when you came up, you were basically suggesting that what happened was because we're not committed to our police, and that's not true.
That's what I said. I feel better knowing that you're telling me y'all have a plan.
Absolutely.
Because it was alarming to me to think that, you know, there needs to be planning, not reaction.
We
Absolutely.
play chess, not checkers. We think 10, 15 years down the road.
And we don't have a knee-jerk reaction, like I'm saying. I know it's emotional for people when something happens like happened over the weekend. It's disturbing. I understand that.
Well, it is.
It disturbed me. When I found out about it immediately. I was very disturbed about it as well. But what I want you to understand is we don't have a knee-jerk reaction. I don't want to say that we're not surprised, because we're always surprised when something like that happens, but we're in the business of being prepared, so we know that we have to make changes, and we do.
I was surprised because I grew up in the city of Southaven, and I'm just telling you, we've not had this kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And even in our neighborhood where we have had crime, we've not had these kinds of things happen.
Right, but I do want to, again, what I said earlier, point out that it's not 1980 anymore. And,
That's exactly
and,
right.
and our kids are different, and we could talk about this for hours and hours. We can't solve this. There's social problems in our country and in our city. And so it's not like it was when you were growing up. We do have challenges that we didn't have then, and that has nothing to do with how many police officers we have. It's challenges that we face, but I'll leave it at that. We're committed to that, and we're committed to our police. Like I said, in this budget, this board added money for 6 new officers, and I'll tell you, we had to do a lot of carving to find that. We did that without raising taxes. And again, that's a decision for this board. State law allows us to go, what is it, 4 mills? Nick?
It's up to 10%, yeah, 4 mills for our purposes, but 10%, yeah.
Yes. So 10% would be between 4 and 5 mills for the city of Southaven. So we could take a maximum tax increase and dump all that money into hiring new officers. That's a decision for this board. But we have to be conscious of our citizens too, because there's a lot of people that would not back you on that. Okay, they would come up in this meeting, stand right behind you, and disagree with raising the taxes. So enough talking about it. I just want to assure you that it has nothing to do with this board and me being committed to our police department, because we're certainly committed to that. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yeah. Or get you another water on.
Good evening, gentlemen.
I'll do my best to keep this short, because I know we've been here probably longer than you planned. My name is Barrett Wilkinson. I live on Brookhaven Drive. I've been there for 10 years. I first moved into Southaven in 1970. I have lived in that area for a long time. I've seen a lot of changes. And as you all know, in the last 4 or 5 years, it hasn't been so good. Basically, all I can do right now is echo everything that these other people, I guess that's the advantage of going probably last, is all I can really do is echo what they've said. We've got a lot of concerns. I'm one of those people that I get out and I talk to my neighbors. I make myself available to them. They bounce their ideas off me. I do the same with them. Right now, you've got people in that community, some that I've talked to more than one, that are moving their master bedrooms from the front of their house to the back. They're moving their kids out of their bedrooms that they've been in for years into the den, into the living room, whatever's on the back side of the house. That's how afraid the citizens in that community are. And they have every right to be. I'll say this, listening to everything you guys have said, it's been very educational. This is my first time to one of these meetings, and I'm actually quite impressed with what you guys have said, what you've done, what you've looked at in the past, how you've tried to be proactive. I guess in all, the one thing I can ask that you do, and I realize there's so many things to take into consideration before you do a tax increase to hire more police officers or more firefighters or more equipment for them. There's so much more that goes into that decision than the average citizen knows. And I appreciate the tax rate that we pay. I think I'm going to be the odd man out maybe on this statement though. I would be willing to pay more in taxes to see chief more, have more officers on the street. I applaud the efforts that you make. I'm not here to criticize anybody. I appreciate the city I live in. I've been here 40+ years. That ought to tell you how much I like this city. It's a great place to raise your kids. The house that I'm currently in, I purchased it 10 years ago. Before I made the decision to buy the house, I pulled into the driveway for about 2 weeks. And I may seem a little odd, but I just sat there, got around rush hour, just to watch and see what happened in that neighborhood. If I were making that same decision and those same actions right now, today, I wouldn't buy that house that I live in. I just wouldn't. I hate to say that. It's not something that I look forward to saying, but this city, I'll just leave you with this. This city is only as strong as its weakest link. And right now, the neighborhood I live in is the City of Southaven's weakest link. And we need your help. We need your help.
Well said. Thank you.
Chief Moore, I come from a 25-year veteran in the police department. I appreciate what you do. You're a good man. This guy used to chase me around in my hot rod when I was in high school. Wrote me a couple of tickets.
Shame on you.
No, I deserved them. I deserved them. And there were a lot of times you know where you need to be right now, boy, don't you? And I said, yes, sir. I go home.
And I'm going to say one last thing, and I know we've talked this all night. When you ask, we talk about the youth problem, you ask police officers and teachers, do the jobs of parents, this is the recipe for disaster. This is what you get. That's all I'm going to say.
You're exactly right. The issues that I've had, and nothing, well, one major issue. I had a young man draw a pistol on me out in the middle of Brookhaven Drive. Simply because I yelled at him to slow down. He was in hot rod and he burned tires from Brookhaven and Southaven Circle. I lived 4 houses down and he passed my house. He was still smoking those tires. And I said, hey, slow down. The way he wanted to resolve that problem was to come back and draw a firearm on me. Fortunately, I had one as well, but that's for another day. But that's the kind of issues we're dealing with. It's the young people. They have, Charlie Hoots, I think I saw you on Facebook there. You said something about the kids these days, they have no respect. They don't know what it is. And we all know where that comes from. They're not being taught that at home. And we can't come in here as citizens of this city and look at you guys and expect you to create a nanny state that's needed to take care of these kids. That's not what you do.
Let's not forget, we're citizens too. Like, we're just like you, we just happen to sit up here. We love, everybody up here loves us, like, loves us.
It's
That's
a
why
great
that's
city.
why we serve. So there is, I don't look at it as us versus them type thing. We live in the community as well. I mean, obviously Charlie lives with he's more close to you than I am, but we share the sense. We hate what's the problems. We want something.
Well, again, I'm out of here right now, but we are only as strong as our weakest link.
Very well said. Thank you for coming forward. And I do want to share one other thing with everyone, since we're having this discussion. It's not a secret that it's a challenge for our police departments, not just Southaven, but for all the departments all over the United States of America, for obvious reasons now, to recruit new officers. You know, look at what's happened just this year, the disrespect to police. That affects us in Southaven too. For the last, I can tell you, before Chief Moore started with the city on July the 10th of 2019, for the 3 budget years before that, we discussed every budget year about how many police officers we're going to add, or what, you know, how much money do we have to add police officers. So when that request was made those 3 years, we had on average about 10 vacant positions. Well, we're not going to go hold up money in a budget for a position we can never fill. That doesn't make any sense. So we didn't allocate money for additional officers because we couldn't fill the spots that were already funded. The city already had those positions budgeted for, and the money's sitting there, but we couldn't fill them because we couldn't recruit and get the positions filled. So that's one of the reasons, like for about the last 3 years. Well, then I commend Chief Moore. Chief Moore came in, and in his first year, he was able to fill the positions. So when he filled the positions, that's when this budget, with this board, this budget year, we said, hey, we're in a different situation we've been in 4 years. We got our other positions are full, we can look at expanding officers. So we did. We expanded without raising taxes. We expanded 6 new officers this year. And we have a plan again, we're not gonna name numbers because that doesn't need to be quoted. We have a plan to continue doing that, to track it, because you said a great statement, and I agree with you 100%. You're only as good as your weakest link. And when I tell you, and I'm not here to crown anybody's shoulder, when I tell you that I think about Colonial Hills daily, you listen to me, I think about Colonial Hills daily. Daily. And when I celebrate the things in our city that are great, all the great things we got going on, there's also at the end of that great feeling, there's a little bittersweet at the end, because I worry about Colonial Hills, not just Colonial Hills, but Colonial Hills because it's special to me personally. So I just want you to know that we don't just start thinking about this tonight. We had this long discussion. This is something, we understand the issue. I agree with everything you said. I hate the same things about what's changed in Colonial Hills that you do, but we're committed to make it better. And I'll just leave it at that. Did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I have a question,
Yeah.
and I want you to quiet. Do we have a Boys and Girls Club in this community?
She said, do we have a boys and girls club? There's a YMCA. Let me finish, if you will. YMCA is involved with a lot of things like that. We've recruited YMCA to Southaven. They have radius guidelines. So since they have the one in Olive Branch and they have the one on Elvis Presley, that disqualified us. I've had one-on-one meetings with the YMCA trying to bring them here. And then, so you want to expand. You're not just talking about that. You're talking about a true boys.
A true Boys and Girls Club.
Right. We don't. I mean, obviously, you know, we try to have opportunities for kids to get involved in a lot of the recreational, not just sports. Before anybody says it's not just about sports. It's about other things. But sports have proven to be a great way to take underprivileged neighborhoods and give kids something where they can use that sport for their education and to change their life. So our recreational sports programs do a lot of that. There's so many men and women that this parking lot couldn't hold all the men and women over the years that have donated their own money, providing equipment, registration fees, going and picking the kids up and taking them home after practice. When they're hungry and they're ready to get home to their family, they're driving all the kids home. So there's an enormous amount of outstanding volunteers in Southaven to help kids like that. But I just want to point that out because that's kind of what we've been able to do in a positive way in exchange for a boys club. But long way to answer your question, no, we don't have an official Boys Club of America or anything like that.
Well, all I've got to say on that is I think while we're looking at solutions, maybe a real Boys and Girls Club might be an answer to some of our problems.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that believes that you can have a police car on every street and it's going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Because then they'll just go to the next street
Right.
or wherever. We need to address the problem with the youth and the gang situation.
I agree with
In
you
a positive
100%.
way. And a lot of them aren't going to be interested in sports, but maybe if we could get a Boys and Girls Club or some other things like that, and if they get into trouble or something, maybe they need to go to Boys and Girls Club for a while or something, I don't know.
Well, we did, just again, FYI, we did have a contract. The city gave money to an organization called Youth Solutions for several years. Hadn't been that long ago. And the founder of that was a former gang member. And that was his purpose, to go back into communities and try to prevent kids from getting into gangs. And we don't want to get into all that tonight, but just to let you know, people don't get in gangs when they're old enough to drive a car and shoot somebody. They get in gangs at a very early age. And the reason they do that is because of bullying, because they're looking, and a lack of a father figure. They're looking for someone to take up for them and to direct them. So when there's not a father figure and there's not money and things for them to do, they migrate towards a gang. That's how it happens. So this group was, city gave money to support this group to come into our communities and to work with gangs. We know that we're at risk of gangs. The other thing was there's an organization called DeSoto Grace. It's in our Serve Southaven program. It's not just about sports, but they do help kids with sports clinics, but they also do after-school tutoring. And when I say these people are incredible, they don't just bring these kids in there to help them with their homework. They feed them. That's one of the problems. They're hungry. These kids these kids have to go to school to eat. They don't get to eat. There's many organizations that pack lunches for the weekend in our schools, because when these kids leave on Friday, as sad as that sounds, they don't have food until they get back to school. So they will pack these lunches for them to eat over the weekend so they can get back into school. So we have these organizations now that are doing an incredible job. And I know that it's not enough, but I just want you to know that there are people in our community that recognize the problems that you've expressed, and they are working, to try to help that in South Haven.
Yeah, the church I go to does the backpack program.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing. But I think we have kids too that are just out on the streets all day with nothing to do, and it leads to problems if they have other alternatives. I think maybe we should think about some of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And if you will you can go to my the front page, or you go to the page of the city website, and you can email me directly. Just go to services, and you can click, and it'll have my email address there. Send me ideas. If you're just any day, if you just, whatever, something comes to you and you say, hey, you know what, this may work in South Haven, email that to me. If you have a contact of a boys club or any kind of girls organizations, anything like that, email that to me. I'll share that with the board. We'll take it to committee meetings and talk about that, because we're on the same page. We have the same goals as you. We want it to do better. I assure you. Okay, we do have to move on. I appreciate the discussion. Those are some really good concerns, and very well said by all of you. So thank y'all so much for coming forward. Okay, next on the agenda is our personnel document.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve personnel document.
Got a motion, Alderman Brooks, second Alderman Gallagher. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderman Brooks?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly?
Yeah.
Alderman Hughes?
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher?
Yes.
Alderman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Flores?
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is our city attorney's legal update.
Two bids that came for, didn't make the agenda, award these two bids tonight. They were received this afternoon. First is awarding the water treatment chemicals bid to Idaho Chemical. City received two bid submissions, and Idaho Chemical is the only one that can meet the specs. So tonight, award the chemical bid to award the water treatment chemical bid to Idaho Chemicals for 1 year with a 1 year renewal.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion?
Is there a total amount that bid?
It's no change from price from last year. It is, let me pull it up right here. I was right here on my phone. The different, the soda liquid, college soda liquid 50%, 39 cents per pound, and then the sodium hydrochloric 10% by weight, $1.90, and then the hydrochloric acid, 40 cents per pound. I know, I was awesome in chemistry. Well, with law, chemistry and math.
I don't know, excuse me.
Yeah, I can't do either. So,
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman Hughes?
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher?
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Alderman Flores?
Yes.
That motion carries.
and then the next is police vehicle equipment bid. This will receive bids. Only one bid was received. It was from ComServe Memphis. This will allow for the police to provide the equipment needed for the new vehicles. The ComServe, the bid is going to be an amount not to exceed $124,000.
We have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Wheeler. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly? Alderman Hughes?
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher?
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Alderman Flores?
The motion carries. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is our utility bill adjustment docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the utility bill adjustment document presented on the state.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly?
Yes.
Alderman Hughes?
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher?
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Alderman Flores?
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda are two claims dockets. Is there a motion to approve docket one?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve document number one, $1,544,815.73 to include mentions.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly? Alderman Hoots?
Yes.
Alderman Gallagher?
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Alderman Flores?
Yes.
That motion carries. Is there a motion to approve docket two?
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve document number two, in the amount of $15,531.84.
Second.
We got a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Alderman Brooks?
Yes.
Alderman Kelly? Alderman Gallagher?
Yes.
Alderman Wheeler?
Yes.
Alderman Flores?
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the purpose of determining the need for executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Wheeler. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The need this evening is claims and litigation involving city infrastructure and the Southaven Police Department and economic development within the city. Is there a motion to declare executive session?
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Hicks, second by Alderman Gallagher. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The mayor and board will now enter executive session.